And you must allow them space to work, okay? Because you need to give your staff space to evolve with clear direction and time blocks. Now, if staff miss something and don't immediately say, that's on me, I'll fix that right now, you need to continue to train, continue to train, continue to train. If it happens again, you must immediately jump on a realignment call. That realignment call often has nothing to do with business and everything to do with the human. That's the exact call that I had with Alice recently. Again, she's so good at what she does. She was just really stressed and she just hadn't told me she was really stressed. So as soon as we jump on that realignment call and be like, right, what is going on? We were able to get to the bottom of things. I actually wrote that down as well. Cool, so how is things at home? Who has hired a staff member and has never asked that question? We should all be asking that question. Is that someone's coffee or something? We should all be asking that question. We should all know how things are at home for that particular person. Because if you don't, that person's gonna have a lot less trust in you. In my personal opinion, whether this is too much or not enough, whatever it may be, like I really, really do believe that you should be ensuring that, hello mate, you're right. You should really, really, really be able to clearly articulate who that person is outside of work as well. You know, have that bond, have that understanding of that person. So, when I say how is name, the reason I say how is name, again, this is just a personal thing for me, it's like a cultural thing. I believe if you've got a staff member who you're bringing on board to your business, you should know all of the 5 people in their immediate circle. Cats, dogs, mums, dads, sisters, brothers, husbands, wives, like you should know those people because that's who they're spending the majority of their time around and that's gonna have a knock-on impact to the way that everything else is being run. I would say this, you know what, I'm gonna say this client, I'm gonna say this story. And before I say this, I just wanna say, not a bad word to say about Kev, he's an absolutely amazing coach. But he made a mistake and he didn't realize he made a mistake and it made him a better coach. So I worked with a client for about 6 months back in the day. And I was working with this client, got to know him really, really well, had to take a step back from coaching, that's absolutely fine. He rejoined a year later. And when he rejoined, I said, right, you're gonna work with Kev now. I was like, okay, all good. After 4 months, he was getting really good results. I think in 4 months, I mean, realistically, he'd gone from, he was a bit overweight, he'd pretty much already got a 6-pack. Like the results were going great. And we knew exactly how things were gonna go. Out of the blue, he messaged me and goes, I don't think this is working, I'm gonna leave. So I was thinking, what the fuck? Like this guy's getting great results. Like why would he wanna leave? So I spoke to Kevin, he was like, yeah, I'm not really sure too either. And I said, how's his wife? And he was like, oh yeah, I think she's okay. And I went, what's his wife's name? And he went, well, I don't know. I went, how's his son? And he went, I think he's okay. I was like, right, what team does his son support? He was like, I don't know. I was like, where do they go every Saturday morning? He went, I don't know. I went, that's why he's leaving. Because I'd remembered that his wife's name was Sandra, that his son loves West Ham and they go and watch him every morning. Or if they're not watching West Ham on a Saturday, then it would be whatever other day of the week. And I knew that that was a cultural thing for them. And because I knew that was a cultural thing for them, I was like, right, these things need to be documented somewhere. So yes, we have team culture and we have staff culture, but you must also have client culture. You must understand what that person's world looks like in order to, like, when people used to ask me back in the day, like, how do you have a client for 3 years? The reason I have a client for 3 years is because I know this person like my fucking friend at this point. I can message him on a random Tuesday evening and be like, oh, you're right, mate, how was that meal out with Sandra you had last night? Did you go for the steak in the end? And that person's like, oh my fucking God, wow, they remember so many things about me. Like those little details make a massive, massive, massive difference. So if I delete after reading, what's something you wish you could say out loud but haven't? If I delete after reading, what's one thing you wish you could say out loud but haven't? I've used that sentence in about 200 check-ins, and that has turned around about 90% of clients who were thinking that they were going to step off board. Because there was something that they wanted to tell you that they felt embarrassed about, that they felt ashamed of, that they felt scared of. Same thing with staff members. So if I could delete this conversation and no one else would hear it, what's something that you wish you could say out loud but you haven't said yet? That's been absolutely massive for us. Because your people should be looked after so much, you should create a culture that keeps people, not just gains people. Matt did a really good talk on this. If you're looking for the talk, it's in Coach's Corner live recordings. I think it was about 2 months ago. We spoke about leaking buckets. Yeah, a big reason a lot of people have leaking buckets is just because they're not nurturing relationships as well as they could be. So marketing is something that you do to get and keep someone, not selling, okay? You're no longer selling, you are building trust to lead to a buying conversation. And this is something that Joe spoke about a few months ago, is that reframing sales calls to a buying conversation. That person is there to buy from you, not to be sold to, okay? Culture is something that you do to get and keep talent to drive the business forwards. Has anyone got any questions at this point? I realise I haven't actually stopped yet. If anyone does, feel free to raise your hand or we'll just kind of do it whichever way. Or we can leave it to the end, I don't really mind.